Afternoon. Just in time, Councilman Bullock.
Not yet. It's just collecting data.
Councilman, lots of seats over here.
Oh, yeah, hot seats over
Good afternoon, welcome everyone. I am Sharon Green Middleton, Vice President of the City Council, Representative for the 6th Council District, and Chairperson of the Economic and Community Development Committee. This afternoon, we will hear the following landmark list bills. Nope, sorry. We will hear
It's just
one landmark list bill,
21.
which is 21-0158, 22-0296, and 22-0321. In attendance today, we have Councilman John Bullock of the 9th District,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mark Conway of the 4th District,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ryan Dorsey of the 3rd District,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
and Robert Stokes of the 12th District.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Councilwoman Odette Ramos, who will be joining us shortly. She's en route from Annapolis. And also, we have Councilman Z. Cohen of the 1st District
Madam Chair.
here on one of his bills. Representatives from the President's office and representatives from the Mayor's office, Sophia G. And let's begin. Bill number 22-0296, rezoning 818 Leadenhall Street. And also, we have Councilman Eric Costello of the 11th District, and this is his bill we are about to hear. For the purpose of changing the zoning for the property known as 810 Leadenhall Street, Block 0902, Lot 006, as outlined in red on the accompanying plat from the IMU 1 zoning district to the TOD 4 zoning district. This bill was introduced on November 7th, 2022. Sponsor of the bill, Councilman Costello, and Councilmember, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the committee's consideration. This is for a proposed conversion of an existing warehouse that sits right in between the neighborhoods of Sharp, Leadenhall, and Otterbein, but is not actually in the boundaries of either neighborhood. It is also sandwiched by 2 RPP districts as well as 2 CHAP districts, but again, in neither. As such, my office took the initiative of setting up a community-wide meeting. We held the first meeting on October 6th of 2022. We held the second meeting on January 4th. I think we've gotten to a really good place in terms of community input, in terms of the proposed project for this site. I've set up a third community meeting following through on the commitment that I made to the larger community. That's scheduled for Wednesday, April 19th at 6 p.m., which will be at Leadenhall Baptist Church at 1021 Leadenhall Street. And at this time, Madam Chair, because we're almost at the end, we're still doing community outreach. I want to make sure that we get the best possible project for the community. I would ask the committee to consider going into recess on this and postponing for a later date.
Okay, thank you. I know you've been working on this for a long time, and you've wanted to be a very smooth project. So, yes, we will grant your request.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Postpone it, and so this hearing for this particular bill, which is bill number 22-0296, will be heard again at a later date. And is that okay? Thank you so much.
And Madam Chair, what's the date? I think we had said April 25th,
April 25th.
2 p.m.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam
2
Chair.
2 p.m., April 25th. This particular bill hearing will be rescheduled on that date. Thank you. Moving on to Bill number 22-0321, rezoning 1419 to 1431 Bank Street and 409 South Spring Street for the purpose of changing the zoning for the properties known as 1419 to 1431 Bank Street, Block 1433, lots 043, 044, 045, 046, 047, and 048/050, and 409 South Spring Street, Block 1433, Lot 051/060 from the R8 to IMU 1 zoning districts to the C2 zoning district and providing for a special effective date. This bill was introduced on December 5th, 2022. This bill was sponsored by Councilmember Cohen. Councilmember Cohen, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the committee. Thank you to all the staff for being here as well. This is a relatively simple conversion where, as the Perkins Somerset project gets undergoing, we are hoping to see some increased commercial activity around the area. The hope with this bill is that through this rezoning, we could see a restaurant and potentially maybe even a brew pub in the area. It has support from the Douglas District, which is the appropriate community association, and again, look forward to your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. The committee will now hear from agency representatives. We'll start with the City Solicitor's Office.
Michelle Toth on behalf of the Law Department, and we stand by our report approving the bill for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. And then we'll hear from the Planning Commission, Eric Tiso.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Here for my colleague Martin French. This bill was reviewed by the Planning Commission in their meeting of March 2nd, and they reviewed testimony and facts presented by the applicant's counsel and recommended the bill be approved with those facts. And representatives of the applicant are here that can expound on that further.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll have Carolyn Hecker to go ahead and present the findings, since it's right after the Planning Commission that did approve, but the Planning Department did not, which is one of those, so you're going to present the findings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Caroline Hecker, Rosenberg, Martin, Greenberg, on behalf of the applicant. I'm joined by the developer, Jimmy Edgerton, and my colleague, Brooke Hutchins, is here as well. As Mr. Tiso indicated, the Planning Commission voted to recommend favorably on the rezoning, and they adopted the findings of fact that we had submitted to the Planning Commission for their consideration. You should have a copy of those in your file. I'd be happy to walk through them briefly. As you know, in order to approve a rezoning, the City Council is required to find either that there has been a change in the character of the neighborhood or that there was a mistake in the original zoning. In this case, the Planning Commission recommended approval on both fronts. They found that when the City Council rezoned the Perkins Somerset project across the street to the C2 district, it should also have zoned this property C2 at the same time, and that its failure to do so was a mistake. They also found that there has been a change in the character of the neighborhood because of the Perkins Somerset project, because the population has declined so significantly with the demolition of that entire project over the last several years. It is intended to be rebuilt in a new form in the near future, but over the last several years since the last rezoning and transform, there has been this very significant change in the neighborhood due to the demolition of that project. With regard to the specific standards that the council is required to consider, the population change being the first one, the population at the time of Transform Baltimore was a little over 3,300 people within this census tract. It declined to just over 2,000 people in 2020 with the 2020 census, so that's a decline by about a third in population. There is plenty of availability of public facilities in the area. The area is well served by public utilities. There are multiple bus lines that traverse the streets around the property, including circulator routes and the Baltimore Link bus lines. It's near truck routes and enjoys easy access to major transportation routes. The proposed zoning is compatible with existing and proposed development in the area. As I mentioned, across the street at the Perkins Somerset site, that site was zoned C2 and transformed. This is consistent with that, and so for that reason, it is consistent with proposed development in the area. The findings of the Planning Commission and the BMZA, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the rezoning. The BMZA, I believe, deferred to the Planning Commission. And this is consistent with the city's comprehensive master plan in terms of redeveloping properties that are in a way that will support other development in the area. And in this manner, as Councilman Cohen mentioned, the proposed commercial redevelopment will support the redevelopment of the Perkins Somerset project. I'd be happy to answer any further questions that you have. You should have a letter of support in your file from the Douglas District Neighborhood Association.
Yes, we do.
Great.
Thank you. Any questions for Caroline Hecker? Hearing none, thank you, Caroline.
Thank you very much.
And I do want to recognize Councilwoman Odette Ramos, member of the committee en route from Annapolis.
Thank you.
Next, the BMZA.
Thank you, Madam Chair. BMC stands by its support and deferring to planning for the report. Thanks.
And we need their written report in. We don't have their written report.
It's submitted, but it hasn't reached the late straw. But yeah.
Okay. Make sure you get that in. Thanks. Department of Transportation, Liam.
Madam Chair, Liam Davis, Baltimore City DOT. We stand by our bill report, which is no objection. Thank you.
Okay, and we don't have a copy of your written report. We don't have it in our file, so
Sorry about that.
that's okay. When you, as soon as possible, get it so we can have it in our file.
Absolutely. I have a copy right here I can run copies for.
Okay, thank you. If you want to give it to Natwana, she can make copies. Is she? Oh, email it, I'm sorry. Email it to Natwana.
So it should be on Legistar right now. It's not on there?
It wasn't when I last checked.
Okay.
So you want to try
I'll
to
make-
get that in.
I'll make sure I get that in. Thank you.
Thank you, along with BMZA. Housing,
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Stephanie Murdoch, Director of Legislative Services for the Department of Housing and Community Development. As you heard Ms. Hecker mention, that there has been a significant change in the area due to the demolition of Perkins Home, which formerly included 629 dwelling units. We believe the proposed rezoning would enable a future denser commercial use of this site, which would allow for small to medium scale commercial uses to appropriately meet the needs of both incoming and returning Perkins Home residents, as well as the wider surrounding communities. So we do stand by our bill report. We do not object to the passage of this bill. Thank you.
thank you, Stephanie. Baltimore Development Corporation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alex Walenskas, Baltimore Development Corporation, and we stand by a favorable report on this bill.
I'm sorry, thank you. And what was your name again?
Alex Walenskas.
Okay,
Thank you.
And the Parking Authority.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Arcus Sen from the Parking Authority, and we do not oppose the passage of the bill.
Thank you. So now the committee will check for public testimony. And we just have, we have Caroline Hecker that signed up and already spoke. And that's it. So now we'll check for online attendees. And we see none. Any phone callers? And we see none. Does the committee have any comments or questions? The committee heard testimony and recommendation to support the legal standards and findings. There are no amendments. Is there a motion to move the bill?
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Bullock and second by Councilman Conway. Chair Middleton, yes. Bullock?
Yes.
Yes. Conway?
Yes.
Yes. Dorsey?
Yes.
Is a yes. Glover, absent. Ramos?
Yes.
Is a yes. Stokes? is a yes. This bill will move to second reader at the next council meeting. Thank you. The next bill,
Thank you.
number 21-0158, is a landmark list. Truck House number 5, Oliver Community Firehouse. For the purpose of designating the Truck House number 5, Oliver Community Firehouse, 1220 East Oliver Street, as an historical landmark exterior. This bill was introduced on September 20th, 2021. This bill was sponsored by Councilmember Stokes. Councilmember Stokes, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is Mr. George Collins online?
No.
Okay. So this is a firehouse over in the Oliver community, which is supported by the Baltimore Oliver Community Association, the People's Association. But I just want to talk about how hard Mr. George Collins has been working on this piece. I think the last 2 years, he's a retired fireman himself. But I wanted to talk about a lot of historic things around there. Like across the street, I opened up a swimming pool that had been closed for 11 years. Around the corner is the oldest black Catholic church in the country, St. Francis. If you don't go too far from there, you go down to Chick Webb, which I made historic, and we get ready to redo that. So there's a lot of history right there in the Oliver community, and I truly support this endeavor that Mr. Collins been. I can't even tell you how long he's been fighting, going back to Annapolis to get funding. So this is a great step for him and all his efforts. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Stokes. The committee will now hear agency representatives, and we'll start with City Solicitor.
Michelle Toth on behalf of the Law Department, and we stand by our bill approving for form and legal sufficiency.
Thank you. And then we have CHAP, the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. And if you want to just also give some added history and just a summary and your findings.
Happy to. Thank you, Madam Chair. Lauren Shizik, Baltimore City Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. CHAP stands by our report recommending favorable approval for this designation because this truck house number 5 is a significant building in the Oliver community. It was built in 1905 to replace a previous fire station. It was built in the 1880s. It was built in the very ornamental Renaissance Revival style, which was very popular at the time. And it served a really important role in that part of the neighborhood. You know, I think as we discussed in a hearing a couple weeks ago about another firehouse in East Baltimore, you know, firehouses do so much to serve their communities, you know, beyond fire safety. They really are nodes of community. And so this truck company served that role. And also importantly, is in, you know, Baltimore's fire department was segregated for a very long time. African Americans were not allowed to serve as firefighters, and so you know, this truck company was actually home to several leaders, several black leaders who were firefighters, and I think that that's a really important aspect of this history, particularly because as Councilmember Stokes mentioned, George Collins, you know, is hoping to purchase this property from DHCD and put in a museum for African American firefighter history. And so this designation is actually an important tool to allow that organization to access historic tax credits to make that a possibility. So that's a little bit of history. I hope that's sufficient. Thank you.
And is that a new employee that you have next to you? If you want to introduce him,
I would
like to say a few things.
Sure, I'd be delighted to. This is here, Tyreek. Do you want to introduce yourself? He's new, not so new, but here.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Tyreek Charleuse. I'm the new Historic Preservation Planner, too, for Sharp Leadenhall, Federal Hill, Union Square, Upton's and Marble Hill, Madison Park, and Jonestown. So it's been over a year.
Welcome. Welcome,
a
Councilman
ninth
Bullock.
district representative. So
Okay, okay.
And he helped shepherd this, this designation through while I was out on maternity leave. So we threw him into the deep end. So thank you, Tyreek.
That is, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for introducing yourself. Any questions at this point? Thank you. Moving on to the Planning Commission.
Lauren Shizik, I will also represent the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission stands by their report in favor. Thank you.
Which is favorable. Thank you. BMZA?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, BMZ refers to Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. And Housing?
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Stephanie Murdoch with the Department of Housing and Community Development. We believe that preserving these historically significant structures will support not only the well-being and overall health of the neighborhood, but it will also serve as this building in particular will serve as a historic resource dedicated to the history that has been made by firefighters of African American descent. Additionally, this property is currently vacant, so to see the property rehabilitated and used in this way is something that we are in support of. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And BDC?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Luis Cardona, Senior Director of Neighborhood Development with the BDC. We stand by our agency report in support of this bill.
Thank you. And hearing no comments or questions from committee, there is no one that has signed up in person, so now we are checking online. And there is no one online. Any telephone calls? No telephone calls. The committee heard testimony and recommendations that support the legal standards and findings. And there are no amendments to this bill. Is there a motion to move the bill? So moved by Councilman Stokes, second by Councilwoman Ramos. Chair Middleton, yes. Bullock?
Yes.
Yes. Conway?
Yes.
Is a yes. Dorsey? Yes. Is a yes. Glover, absent. Ramos?
Yes.
Is a yes. Stokes? Absolutely yes. Is a yes. And this bill will move to second reader at the next council meeting. And I want to thank everyone for attending today's hearing. Enjoy the upcoming holidays, and this hearing is adjourned.